Okay, so right at this moment, it is just Susan and I, but we shall see if anyone else will join us. Pardon me. So today is our last Spooktober for October 2022, and we're going out with a bang. We are going with demonic, demony, creepy thingies. As you can see by my background, I had a little bit of fun with that. I have mentioned it on the group, and I mentioned it again to Susan that I am having some. Earlier today I was having some power issues, so if this suddenly cuts out, it's out of my hands, and also a little part of me might blame demons. Okay, so I know. Susan's on mute right now, but I am pretty sure she had said that she's not had a lot of experience. Susan, you said you have not had a lot of experience or any with demons. Is that correct?
Correct. And I'm going to
Okay.
keep it that way.
Good call.
I like ghosts.
Yeah. So now I'll go through some of that stuff and maybe share, because I've had experiences with demons, and I've shared some of those stories in other places, like my book, Paranormal 101. I've made mention to them on my blogs, because years and years ago, I mean, I made a new blog post, I think it was last year, maybe. But previous to that, I hadn't written about spirits or like the paranormal or what have you on my blog in like 4 years. So it's been a while, but I do have a ton of notes because there are signs, if you will, of demonic infestation. So, and there's a list, there's a long list. Some people might already know this when they're watching the replay, but for those who don't, I want to make sure that you have that information. So, for sure, with Susan, if you can avoid the demonic, or if any of these things that I'm going to be listing off uh, pop up in your paranormal investigations, you'll know to just get on out of there. If you want to avoid any of that, just get on out of there. Be like, not investigating this place. I'm out. Gotta go. Okay, so oh well, you know what? Actually, before we really dig into this, I am going to take a lesson from one of my favorite podcasts called Two Girls, One Ghost. And a lot of times when they're talking about these darker topics, they tend to have a lot of paranormal activity happening for the next few days. So I'm going to take a note from them, and we're going to go with an affirmation first to start off, to say that we are only, even though we're talking about the darker side of things, that only entities of the light and of love and peace and good are allowed in this space. No, we're putting up those boundaries. No, malevolent or harmful entities or energies may enter this space. Okay, we are only allowing in entities of the light that are here to help and bring in positivity and peace and protect us from those darker entities. So hopefully that will keep us protected. If not, there are some things we can do to help ourselves, but we will get there. Susan, would you rather, I'm just gonna ask you, would you rather hear some stories right now, or would you like me to just kind of go through my long ass list, my notes here?
I would like to hear your notes first because they're always really informative and we get sidetracked on stories.
Yes. Okay, so we will do that first. I'll also, before I forget, if I forget, even though she's not here, Tamika asked last week that we talk about black-eyed demons, or black-eyed kids, rather, black-eyed kids. So if I forget to bring that up, please remind me, because I do want to do that for her, that if she does watch the replay, that is going to be there for her. So
okay. Yeah, I want to know about it too, so that's fine.
Okay. Well, I guess I could mention that really quick now, because I don't know a ton about black-eyed kids, but what I do know, So maybe I'll just talk about that really quickly first. It's not necessarily a story, it's just kind of the little bit that I do know. So black-eyed kids, we're not 100% sure what they are. Um, some I put them in this category of demonic, but they might even be extraterrestrial. We're not, or just some form of they're paranormal. We're not 100% sure what they are, but they look like children, but they have like black voids for eyes. So it's not even just that their eyes are black, it's that where their eyes should be is just like a black void. So that's why they're called black-eyed kids. And typically, if you happen upon them, and it's from my what I've heard, it's incredibly rare to come across a black-eyed child. But should you come across one, they are just they come across as first you're going to feel them. So, and I talk about this with demon stuff too, that you're going to kind of you'll feel their energy, that it's just not a good energy, if you will. And they'll be just a little bit off, right? So there's one famous story where they approached a house and asked to use their telegraph instead of like their telephone or something like that. Like they'll just be a little bit off, right? And the things that the way they dress might be even a little just like not quite right. Like it might be, you know, middle of winter, middle of the night, and they'll show up in like a t-shirt and shorts, and they don't appear to be cold at all, right? So they'll just be a little bit off if you don't notice their eyes right away, because usually they will have something, either like they'll have a hat or something, or they'll be looking down so that you don't see their eyes right away. And so yeah, so they'll be just a little bit not quite right. And they'll ask to, there's one famous story where they approached a man in his car and they asked for money to go see a movie, but the movie had already started like an hour before. And then they became really insistent about, well, if you won't give us money to see this movie, can you take us home? And he just felt like, even though they were children, the guy was like, you feel it, right? It's just that energy of just like something feels wrong here. And so he was like, nah, like call your parents, right? Get them to pick you up. Like, I'm a stranger. You shouldn't be approaching me anyways, right? I'm a strange man in a car. That's just where they're just a little bit off. It's something that a child wouldn't normally do. And then they started becoming very insistent about, and almost mm, like predatory, almost like very almost like threatening, like let us in your car, right? And same with stories I've heard where they've approached somebody at their house, where you feel like, I should not let this child into my house, right? There's just this energy that says, warning, warning, don't, something's wrong here. And so, and they'll become very like, let us in your house, like very like threatening almost. And from what I've heard, should you let them into your house, uh, you can become incredibly ill. It's almost like, what do I want to call it? What's it called? It's right on the tip of my tongue, like radiation poisoning, almost like it's that kind of sick. Or I've heard stories where, you had like an aggressive form of cancer, like overnight, right? Like they come, if they come into your space, apparently they come, it's almost like a pestilence, if you will. They come in and they make you incredibly sick. I haven't heard of any other stories where they were like, they came in and like flat out killed the person right there, or anything like that. But so that's basically what I know about black-eyed children, though, is that you'll feel their energy, that it's just like, oh, that feels wrong, and they're just a little bit off, right? So their clothes won't be quite right, or they'll be a little more aggressive or threatening towards you. And the obvious sign, of course, is if you do happen to see their eyes, that they're just these black voids, from what I've heard anyways. And do not let them into your car or your home or whatever they're asking for, just send them away. Because I've also heard that if you send them away, like if they approach your house and you're like, no, piss off, and you close the door, they just disappear, right? They're like, well, and they'll just leave. They might bang on the door, but you'll look outside and no one will be there. Or you might see them just kind of walking away. They kind of, from what I've heard, the stories I've heard, they just kind of, they give up rather easily. Like once you're just like, nah, kid, piss off, they're like, all right, I'm out, right? I could be wrong about that, but like I said, I don't actually have personal experience with that. So this is just what I've heard. So that one goes out to Tamika, should she watch this, which I would be honestly a little surprised if she did, because she's afraid of earthbound, spirits. So I can't imagine she would enjoy a talk about demons. Okay, so moving on from that, we are just going to get into my list here. Okay, so pardon me. Okay, so first things first, demons are sometimes invited, either, or yeah, let me speak again. Bring it on back, slow it down, Lizzie. Okay, so demons can be invited either intentionally or unintentionally, through, so they can come through portals, but they can also come through in places where, so they can come through, say, things like, and I have another list here, but they can come through things like Ouija boards, right, is really typical. If you're an amateur, which is why I say if you're an amateur, do not use a Ouija board, because these lower entities, it's just Ouija board is a portal, and they will just, and if you don't know how to use one properly or have it blessed or any of that jazz, these lower entities are going to take advantage and they will come through that portal. Okay, so but they also are attracted to places where there's a lot of like negative residual energy, or so I had mentioned this, I think, in our last talk with Susan, because she goes to places, she does paranormal investigations in places where, like, prisons and all that. So if you go to a place like a prison, right, just as an example, because there is a lot of there will be a lot of residual energy there, but there are going to be a lot of spirits as well that are going to be in that place, and they're still going to be, because they're earthbound, chances are they'll still have the same mindset they had before they passed. Okay, so they're probably not going to be super friendly spirits anyways, but the demonic entities are attracted to places that hold a lot of like this negative residual energy. So a place that has a lot of anger and a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. Okay, and a prison is going to have a lot of that. So, but it could be, hospitals, sanitariums, any of that stuff. Okay, or even just, or like battlegrounds, or even just, a house that had a traumatic event happen in it. Okay, it's going to be attracted to that. Okay, so we have residual energy, but also they will trap human souls so they can feed off the pain as well. Okay, so I can put that out there. So that's why I tell Susan, heads up for this stuff, because she goes to a lot of these places that could attract demons just by their energy alone. So, okay, so the first thing you need to know about demons is that their goal is to cause turmoil or chaos, or just, yeah, I guess turmoil would be the best. So demonic entities take pleasure in torturing their victims, and will show themselves to terrify that victim or their victims in order to feed off that negative energy. Okay, so that's kind of their whole main thing, is that they are there to feed. Okay, they're there to gain power and to feed. Okay, and they typically will feed off of those lower harmful energies like pain and anger and all of that stuff. So, okay. So a demon can attach itself, and I mentioned this before, but for funs and giggles, we'll say it again. Attachment is different from possession, and we'll get to that. So a demon will attach itself to a living person, and it can literally suck the energy out of their body. And this will cause them to become lethargic, depressed, sick, and in pain. Okay, so that's another, so I'm going to get to just like a bullet point sort of list that I'm going to go through here in a minute, but that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that that is something that you're aware of, that when it comes to oppression specifically, not even just straight possession, so you have oppression that can lead to possession, but you're going to be oppressed first, and I will get to that more so in a minute. So but it can just, so when you're oppressed, this is when the demon has attached itself to you, but it hasn't possessed you yet. It doesn't have control over your vessel. Okay. And so one of the ways you can tell that you have a demonic attachment is that you will feel just uh, this lethargic, like you just feel like the energy is just drained out of you, and you can feel like you have a really gnarly case of depression, like borderline or full on like suicidal. Like it drags you right down. It sucks out all of your energy, all of your sense of, those higher, what we would call higher vibe, right? It just sucks that all down to cause you pain, because it's all about that turmoil and feeding off your pain and suffering. Okay, so that's one way to tell that you have a demonic attachment, is that just, it's like your night and day kind of thing. You're completely lethargic. You get really gnarly sense of, or really gnarly depression. And again, it can make you sick. And that could be either like we were talking about with the black-eyed children, where it's like you have, it's almost like they poisoned you, or suddenly you have like a gnarly case of cancer overnight, but it can just be a matter of just feeling, like when you have the flu, kind of like that, right? When you're just like, oh, I can't get up, and you're just, oh, I feel just terrible, right? And it can cause you to feel pain, right? Okay, so let's see about getting to these bullet points. So I'm just going to start firing them off. But Susan, if you need me to stop at any point and explain something more, if you want to go into detail, chime on in, because these are just going to be bullet points. So I'm just going to go. Okay, so some signs of a demonic infestation, oppression, or possession as follows. So it turns the home's energy heavy and dark. Okay, so you're just gonna, again, it's just that, oh, it feels like you could just walk into a space. It doesn't even have to be yours. You can just walk into a space and you're just like, it's almost hard to breathe. It's so heavy. Okay, so it's just heavy and dark. It's like sunlight, even if all the windows are open, it's like sunlight can't get in. It's just so dark and heavy. Okay. It can cause arguments and violence. Okay, because again, it's all about that turmoil and causing pain and suffering. So it's going to cause arguments and violence. It can harm and even kill pets. And again, to cause you pain and suffering. So causing illness and disease, not only to those living in the home, but also those who visit, and especially those who try to help those living in the home. Okay. Causing depression and provoking suicide is a big one. That's more so along the lines of the oppression, just FYI, but we'll get more into that. Physically harming through scratching. So 3 scratches are very common, and this is believed to be a mocking of the Trinity. So I think it's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, if you're Christian. Mysterious bruises, punching, hair pulling, pushing, and even, trigger warning, sexual assault. Okay. Causing accidents that result in serious injury or even death. So, maybe you get pushed down the stairs, or maybe you're fixing under a car and the car gets dropped on you. Okay. Those are some extremes, but that's a heads up. Excuse me. Also giving violent and disturbing nightmares. And this is, when it comes to that, just because we all have, nightmares, and sometimes they're violent, disturbing nightmares here and there. But we're talking like you can't get out of it. Like it's a consistent thing. Like every time you close your eyes, you have this, it may be the same one or just a lot of these violent and disturbing nightmares. And oftentimes they will involve witnessing harm, like in the dream itself. You'll be either you will be the one being harmed, or you'll be the one witnessing a loved one being harmed, because it's all about causing pain, right? Okay, and some more obvious signs are poltergeist activity, meaning they're going to be moving things and throwing things around. Okay, audible growling, and this is not from a person, but just thin air, right? And so by audible, I mean like you hear it with your ears and not with clairaudience, which is more like a thought. Okay, so audible growling from somewhere, either right in your ear or it's going to be somewhere in the room nearby. Okay, knocking and tapping on things and sounding like it's coming from all over. So you can't really pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. It just feels like it's coming from everywhere. The person being most affected has a drastic personality change, specifically rage, because like I said, they cause violence and arguments. Okay, so where was I? Okay, specifically rage that is constant, meaning not coming and going. Okay, so again, so this is again a drastic personality change, so meaning like day and night. So you could have someone who is you know could be described as, they walk into a room, they light up a room that they walk into, right? You hear that a lot in true crime. Honestly, a lot of the victims will be, the person that lights up a room, right? It's going to, so you have a person that lights up the room one day, and then the next day they're like just in, you know, raged, just the slightest thing will set them off and they're just angry all the time. Typically it's going to be anger. Okay, they're just going to be angry and lashing out and just like they're a totally different person. Okay, where was I? Okay, not coming, going. So the person feels a strong urge to harm or kill someone they love. Okay, and this is because, again, the demon is all about wanting to cause pain and suffering, and it's not necessarily to that person that they're trying to get you to kill. It's to make you hurt. It's to make you suffer. Okay, that's why they're going to target someone that you love or something that you love, like a pet, right? Okay. Uh, this other person typically also lives in the home and may be viewed as a threat to the demon being able to complete its mission, which is possessing, killing, and trapping the afflicted person. Okay. Another big sign, and this is typically when you have full-on possession. Okay. The person will vomit black goo. Okay, so this is like I just had the word ectoplasm. Okay, it's ectoplasm, but it's like demonic ectoplasm, right? So they will vomit this black goo, which is ectoplasm. Not all ectoplasm is demonic, by the way. It's the black stuff you got to look out for. Okay, so another obvious one: levitation and or physically impossible acts for the person. So there's one particular story that comes to mind from Gary, Indiana, where there was a child that they had been brought to the hospital, and the small child went up the wall, like backwards up the wall, and did a flip over the nurse. It was like a 7-year-old child that just walked backwards up the wall and did a flip over the nurse. And like there were multiple people there, so this, to witness it. So it's not something they made up. And again, levitation, that's not common to the best of my knowledge anyways. So if the person is levitating, that's another sign. Okay, where was I? Black goo, levitation, speaking in languages the person doesn't know. Okay, so if I start speaking Latin, guess what? I don't know Latin or really any other language. I mean, I'm in Canada, so a lot of people think that just because you're Canadian, you speak French. I don't. I only know English. So if I start speaking any other language than English, or sometimes demonics will also speak in backwards. So you might say they might be speaking in English, but they'll say it backwards. Okay, so that's one. But a big one is speaking languages the person doesn't know. Okay, reacting to prayers and cleansing activity when the person is unaware that it's happening, meaning they're in a different room and haven't been told what's happening. That's a big one. okay, because that's a there's different cases like Annalise Michelle comes to mind, where she was very aware that prayers and that were being done on her because they were right there, right? They're in the same room. The priests are praying over her body, right? So of course she's going to react, whether she's honestly possessed or not. She's going, if she believes she is, she's going to react. So a way to really know for sure is if you're doing these prayers or or where was I? Or these cleansing activities, and the person is completely unaware that it's happening. They have to be unaware. That's a big one. Okay. Because that's a thing too. And I'm just going to put that in really quickly that it's possible for a person to be, to have a mental illness and truly, honestly believe that they are possessed. But if they are not doing a lot of these things, chances are it is just mental illness. It is not possession or oppression because they're not doing a lot of these things. So if they're not speaking languages that they don't normally know, or vomiting black goo, or levitating, like some of these, or like poltergeist activities happening, right? Chances are you kind of have to be able to you have to be able to notice these like supernatural happenings, right? Otherwise, there's a chance the person might just have a mental illness. Okay. So continuing. So again, so precognition, or knowing things the person couldn't know, is another sign. The person blacks out and loses time. I've had that. It sucks. This is typically a short amount of time, a few seconds or minutes. Going back to pets, pets react negatively to, quote, nothing, or the person affected and or becomes harmed by an unseen force. Okay, so if in my case, we have cats here, we have 4 cats here. So if any of them, are looking into an empty corner and start hissing, I'm gonna have questions. Okay. Or if they start, reacting to me, who, is just all peace and love. And right now I have one of my cats sleeping on my feet. But if they suddenly start hissing at me, I'm going to be like, what's that about? Okay. Okay. Unnatural and often transient hotspots. So a lot of times with a human earthbound spirit, you'll find that they come in with cold spots, and that's because they're sort of absorbing the energy around that area in order to either manifest or move something, or with Susan with paranormal investigation, having those gadgets and stuff to have, like, to get that proof or get them to communicate, right? So spirit will absorb energy from around the space, which causes cold spots. Whereas with demonic entities, they tend to come in hot or very, very warm. Some will say it's because they're from the pits of hell. I don't believe in hell, so I'm going to say otherwise, but they do tend to come in hot or very warm. Another one is an abundance of flies, usually in one room. Now, if it's, summer, you can kind of ride that off. But if it's, again, the dead of winter and it's only one room and you have 50,000 flies in that one room, that might be something. A putrid scent of rotting flesh, or just a putrid scent of something. Like, it'd be like, might be just like garbage. It's just like, ugh, right? It's just something that's going to be repulsive to you. They tend to come in with that. That's just like their natural scent, if you will. It's a putrid scent. Okay, so that's a big one. If you smell that, you want to get on out of there. Sudden mysterious illness of the affected person or loved one, including pets, that doctors can't explain. So stroke or heart attack of a perfectly healthy person, for example. Okay, and then we get into ways to fight back. So before we get into ways to fight back, I'll check in with Susan. How you doing? Let's see if she's, oh, I didn't see this here. I admit we do occasionally hear growling. I didn't see that earlier, sorry.
That's okay. You've been going through your list. When you have all these signs of possession, like, anyone that's, I think, taken by themselves, it could all be explained out in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of general rule of thumb about how many signs before you start thinking like, hey, this may be legit?
Well, it depends on what the signs are. So chances are they will start, usually in my experience, they start off rather subtle and then get more extreme as it goes, right? But that is not always the case, but typically it is. So it starts off subtle, but some of the more common ones, I guess, for one, you feel them. So it's like what I was talking before about the black-eyed children, where you will just feel their presence, and it's a bad presence. It's just like your intuition, your everything is telling you, like it's like almost like animal intuition that's just like run, like threat, danger, run, right? So you'll typically feel that energy of just like, I need to get out of here. It might even be a sense of panic of just, I got to get out of here, right? So you might feel it that way. You might just feel that oppressive type of energy that I mentioned before too, where you just walk in and it's just heavy and dark. It might be hard to breathe. It's just like, oh, and you just feel like you could have been like skipping down the sidewalk a minute ago, and then you enter this space, and all of a sudden you're just like, all of the energy just gets sucked out of you, or you're just like, oh, this feels bad. Um, let's see. Because like I said, they typically will start off pretty subtle. Uh, Sometimes they can be tricksy too. So they'll show up as children to try and gain your sympathy, right? They'll try to bring you in that way. Nightmares is a common one. And like I said, with these nightmares, it's like a consistent thing. It's not just, oh, I had a nightmare once in a while. Oh, I must be oppressed, right? it's like a constant thing. They really affect your mental health, your emotional health before they really start to affect your physical health, in my experience. So you'll just kind of, you'll start to, your mental health and your emotional health will start to really break down. Um, let's see.
I have another question then.
Yeah.
Is an awareness of demons, and I've been thinking about this based on how sensitive or psychic that you are too, because a lot of paranormal people I know that do not hold themselves out as mediums or psychics say they generally discount the demons. And yet the mediums walk in and say, no, there's something here, it's demonic. And we just kind of, the rest of us just go, no. So is it just that we're, not in tune with that dimension or something?
Yeah, there
Or
can be
not
that too.
sensitive?
Yeah, because I mentioned it before too, that just as an example of a believer, say, versus a non-believer, just for an example, as I mentioned before about Shane Madej and Ryan Bagara from their now YouTube channel, Watcher, and they go to these haunted places, and Ryan, who is a believer, he's not psychic, but he's a believer. He could walk into a space because he's already open, even though he doesn't identify as psychic. He's open, so he'll walk in and be like, "Oh, something doesn't feel good, right? I can feel something's not right." Whereas Shane, who is a hands down skeptic, non-believer, he won't feel a damn thing because he's closed off, right? So, to a degree, yeah. So if you identify, right, if you're more sensitive, not even just psychic, okay, we'll just say sensitive, you can walk into a space and you might feel it before someone else who's not quite as sensitive, right? Or someone who's just fully blocked off, they're not going to feel a damn thing.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah. So let's see. And I always say trust your pets because, like I said, they are very in tune. So if you have a pet that's around, if they start reacting in a certain way, I wouldn't discount it. Let's see. You can have blackouts, even on site. You can find that personality changes can happen, like right there. It doesn't even have to take a minute, right? You can just walk in, get kind of acclimated to the energy, and then they can boom. Okay. Uh, and you'll find that you're just like, it might not even be like instant rage, but you're just like, for no reason at all, you're just incredibly annoyed, right? It's not even just a matter of, oh, I've been here for hours and I'm tired. It's just like every little thing just pisses you off to no end, right? So that's a sign too. Um, I'm just trying to think of ones that are like very quick. Um, hmm. And if you are particularly sensitive, then you might even feel them. Like if a negative is around you, you're going to feel it, but you might even feel them like plugging in, because they will plug in when they attach to you. Before they possess, they'll attach. And oftentimes when they attach, they have like a tendril almost. They will like plug in to your back usually, and more likely along your spine. From what I've seen anyways, they're going to be around your back or your spine. And you might actually feel them plug in. It might not even be painful. It's just like a pressure, and you'll feel it. That's not always though. That's not super common to feel it, but some do. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go into maybe a little bit of like story time, but it's like um, to share some, look out for this type of thing. So, and they go for, and I don't think I mentioned it here. I think I might have forgot to put that on the list. And I've mentioned it before, so some of this is going to sound repetitive, but they go after the most vulnerable, typically. Okay, they're going to go after the most vulnerable. And most vulnerable means someone who is already in a place of either their mental health is suffering or their physical health might be suffering. They might be in a place of addiction, like in the throes of addiction, right? They might be in addiction or a heavy state of grief if they just lost somebody. So they're going to go after those who are the most vulnerable in that sense. So people who are already sort of open unintentionally, right? But open to having and attracting these lower vibe entities, okay? And so that's kind of where mine starts off. So I'm sure I've had experiences that I don't even remember because I have been a medium since the day I was born. So I'm sure there are stories that I just don't even remember. But the ones that I do remember, it starts off in this one particular space. So when I came into this space, so this is going to be my sort of story time, but it's also like I said, watch out. These are some signs for, watch out. So when I came into this first apartment, even though I'm a medium and I'm sensitive and all that jazz, I also was, at the time, I was about 11-ish, but I was already like bipolar. Like I was already in the throes of this mental illness, which I still have, but I was already in that space of mental illness, of bipolar 1. So, and that just means that I'm really, really high, and then I just crash, and I'm suicidal, right? So I don't have that now because I'm on medication. I digress. So I walk into this space, and funny enough, so we walk into this apartment, my mom and I. Well, I guess I actually have more stories, just thinking of it now. But we walk into this space and we're looking for a new apartment. And I walk in and immediately I'm like, this is it. I want to live here. Right. And mostly because I was into cheerleading at the time and my bedroom window faced the high school football field. And so I could actually watch them like practicing and all that. And I thought that was really cool. So I really wanted to live in that bedroom because I could watch the cheerleaders practice. Uh, and so, but I came into the space and I didn't immediately feel like, oh, this is gnarly, this is bad energy, right? Came into the apartment space and I was like, hell yeah, I want to live here, right? I didn't want to see any other space. I wanted to live here. Okay. So that can also be uh, a sign ish that, and again, it goes with a handful of other things. Okay. And we'll get to that. But one of the signs, one ways that they can kind of, they'll make you want to stay there, even if it feels bad and you know you're being harmed. For some reason, you'll feel like you can't leave that space or that you shouldn't leave that space. You'll keep wanting, and even if you leave, you keep wanting to come back. And because that way, even if you leave and they're, so let's say a demonic entity is infested, has infested a space, and you walk into that space, right? And now you're food. You've walked into their space, now you're food. Not necessarily that they've attached to you, but you've come in and now they're like, I can feed off of that, right? And they'll do anything they can to scare you or cause you, pain, suffering, as I've covered. They might scratch you, push you, whatever. They're going to do whatever they can to scare you and make you feel bad. Funny enough, you'll leave and then you will feel addicted to that place and you'll keep coming back. You'll feel like you need to come back. You don't want to leave that space because they're feeding off of you. There's like this like psychic connection, if you will, rather than an actual plug-in. So there's that too. So be aware that it can come across as, if you're doing these paranormal investigations, especially for Susan who does paranormal investigations, that if you feel like you have to come back to a space over and over, regardless of what happens there, uh, chances are you're being fed off of. Okay. And so you're going to want to do something about that. Okay. So I walked into this space and I was like, hell yeah, let's live here. I don't want to look anywhere else. Let's live here. And it starts off with, because my mom has some of her stories too, because she also experienced paranormal stuff there. So, and I can kind of speak to it, but there's some stuff that she won't even tell me about. So it doesn't take long to find that there is something wrong with this space. So that's another one, that it won't, if there is a demonic infestation, that even if you don't notice it right away, so maybe it's hiding in a different part of the house, right? So maybe it's decided, depending on, if you have an attic or a basement or something, right? It might hide there first and then kind of make itself known, right? So you might not notice it right away, but it won't take long for this thing to make itself known in some way, shape, or form. Okay. And so because I was already vulnerable and thus open and a medium and all that stuff, so this demonic thing immediately attached itself to me. Yes, it also harmed my mom on the side, but it immediately was like, there's there's the vulnerable person I can attach to, right? So immediately my depression gets worse. Okay. So I'm already just like, so I went from, you know, that bipolar kind of, and I was not getting any kind of help for it because we didn't know that I had it yet. But my depression gets worse and worse and worse to the point of I'm self-harming, I'm suicidal. Okay. And that could just be mental health, right? So then you bring in things that can't be explained. So poltergeist activity starts happening. Things are getting moved, thrown. My mom tried to do a cleansing on her own, and it would knock over the candles, blow things out. And at one point, it had me attack her. So another sign that something is not quite right, and I forgot to put it in here, is that not only was I like filled with rage, but my eyes, I didn't know this happened. I completely blacked out. So I was blacked out for a few minutes. I just had no idea this happened at all. But I was sitting on the couch with my mom. We were watching TV, and suddenly I guess my eyes turned black, and I kind of jumped on her, and I think I might have had my hands on her throat. I'm not 100% sure. My eyes were black though, and my voice changed. So it was not even my voice. It was like a darker or like a deeper, oh, you know, kind of sound. She would have to explain it better than I can because I don't remember this. This is just from what she's told me. So my eyes went black, my voice dropped, and I threatened to kill her. I was like, back off or I'll kill you, kind of deal. And then I just went back and sat where I was sitting before. My eyes went back to normal, and I was just watching TV, and like nothing happened, because for me, nothing had happened. I was completely blacked out. She's on the other end of the couch, just cowering and crying for, just being like terrified because I just attacked her out of nowhere. Uh, and so that's where things start to pick up, where you're like, okay, that's not just mental illness. My eyes went black, right? That's not normal. That's not common. Okay, so my eyes went black, voice dropped, and it was just this instant anger, and I tried to attack her just to get her to, because our belief is that because she was trying to remedy the situation, so it used my body to attack her. And that's another thing too, which is, I hate that this was there, but this is you have to know that, and that's why I put it in the bullet points here, that it kept putting thoughts in my head of harming her. And it's not in the same way of clairaudient, where it was just kind of like radio signal and like a thought coming through. It was more like, um, and it wasn't in a first person. It wasn't like, I want to harm her. It was like a command: go harm her. You need to hurt her. Okay. Like it was like that. Okay. So it was like I was being told to do something, not in a first person. Okay. Not something I liked doing. I was crying. I would call my friends and be like, talk me down, like wait till this passes. Also, in your physical body, I know I'm all over the place, but she's going to be what she's going to be on this one. So it also in your body, if you're the target, okay, it you'll feel differences in your body. Okay, like you're not in control, because this is why it's called possession, right? You're not in control of your body. So, it's like you're trying to hold back. Like if you're conscious and you're still aware, you're trying to stop physically trying to stop your body from doing things that you don't want it to do. Okay. And it's a hard one for me. So this is why it's all over the place, because this is not something I necessarily like to talk about, but I feel like it's important to talk about it. So yeah, so there was many nights where I did not feel safe to be alone. So I would either, even as a 13-year-old, I'd be like, Mom, can I sleep with you? So I'm scared because I'm hearing things, right? I'm hearing voices. And so that's another one where you're like, oh, is that mental illness or is that something else? And that's why you have to bring in these other things. So poltergeist activity, eyes going black, throwing up black goo, levitation, like all, you have to kind of factor in these other paranormal things to be able to differentiate between mental illness and a genuine oppression or possession. Okay. So, like I said, it starts off rather subtly at first, so you might not even notice that it's paranormal, right? So you might not get all of that stuff right away. It might just be like, I feel depressed and lethargic, and I feel like it's just me, right? Or I feel tired all the time. I feel sick. Or, I don't feel safe being alone. You feel like you're being watched all the time, right? And so it's going to be kind of like that at first. So at first it is going to be difficult to be able to differentiate. And then it's once it starts to build up. So there are things to look out for. So like I said, look out if you actually are seeing something. Like I said, if it looks like a child, it may not be a child. Just pay attention to its actions rather than its words, okay? So if it's hurting you, chances are it's not a human spirit. Okay, so, and it was causing me to just plummet. Mental health, all of that, gone. Okay. So it would tell, and it almost could be like an abusive type of situation because at some points I become aware, okay, there's a demon here, right? Like it's moving things, it's trying to hurt people. My eyes are going black. Um, I'm blacking out. I'm losing time, right? So who knows how many times that happened, and there wasn't anyone else around to tell me that it happened. So you're losing time. There's another time where I came back to this space. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here. So years and years after I've left this place, this apartment, I move into that building again, but on a different floor. And then I go outside, I walk my dog, we come back in, and we go to use the stairs to get to the second floor. And suddenly, again, I black out. I've lost time. I have no idea what's happened. But we start to go up the first flight of stairs, and suddenly I'm standing on the third floor in front of that apartment door that I used to live in. I'm just standing there in front of it. And the dog is freaking out, like crying and being like, what's happening? Right? Just like scared and like, what's happening? I have no idea how I got up there or how long I was standing there. I just suddenly came to and I'm standing in front of this door, just standing there. And I kind of look at the dog, Sophie, and I'm like, oh shit. And even though there's a door to go back um, down the stairs to the second floor directly behind me. So there's the door I was standing in front of. So see if I can do this. And then a door to go and hit the stairs and leave. I choose to book it and run down the hallway with Sophie, my dog, and go and exit that way because I just wanted to get away from that door. I was just like blind panic and booked it down that hallway instead of turning around. Um, Again, just blind panic. I couldn't tell you the logic of going that way instead of just hitting the door that was right there. So again, in that case, I don't feel like I was uh, like under attack again per se. I take that as a I'm still here and I can still control you, right? It's not an attachment. It's not attached to me. It's not here, right? But in that moment, it was like I I know you're here and I still can control you. I can still, do that to you. So there's that too. So you might just full on lose time and just find yourself you could be in one place and then, a second later be standing somewhere on another, the other end of the room or another floor or something like that and have no idea how much time has passed. For you, it was a blank, right? And you're like, how the hell did I get here? So that's another sign. Okay, so yeah, so it's moving things around and blacking out. My eyes are going black. Voice is changing. Uh, I'm attacking my mom, and it's because uh, she recognizes something is wrong and she's trying to remedy the situation. So she is a threat to it. And so it wants to use my body to attack her. Okay. So it threatens her, scares the shit out of her. Okay. Now, there's another time. Now, there is a lot of back and forth, but a lot of stuff happened in this apartment, in this one particular unit. Okay. And so I'm going to be all over the place. So, trying to think. Oh, and it had me doing wacky things too. Like, I was hanging my dolls in my closet. I couldn't tell you. This is something that I don't have a memory of. This is something my mom told me about, that she opened my closet door and I had a bunch of Barbie dolls hanging by their neck. I'm assuming I put them there. I don't remember it. I may not have. It might have been a fully paranormal thing where the demon did it of their own power and accord. I could not tell you. Okay. But so that was there. I was harming myself. Uh, Again, with this uh, sort of oppression and how it can affect you that way. So it takes down your mental health, your emotional health. Um, let's see, and it makes you feel like what I was saying before about that sort of an abusive situation where it makes you feel like um, how do I say this? Like you need it, right? It's like I'm the only one who loves you kind of deal. Like if you've ever been or know of abusive relationships, okay? A lot of the times the abuser will convince the abused that the abused needs the abuser, that there no one else loves them the way that this person loves them, even though they're causing them harm, okay? And making it so, and making them isolated, um and uh just kind of breaking them down that way. It's very much, in my experience anyways, another person's experience might be vastly different. In my experience, it was very much like an abusive type of relationship where I felt like I was reliant on this demonic entity, and that's because it was feeding off of me. I know that now. At the time I didn't know that. So that's another way that's how it kind of, in my experience, how possession comes into play, is that it's, you invite it, right? Consciously or unconsciously. It breaks you down mentally and emotionally, physically, to the point that you are just like, do what you're going to do, right? Just do what you're going to do. Either, kill me, whatever. Like you're just so low that you're just like, do what you're going to do. Or in my case, it sort of brainwashed me into believing that I needed it, right? So I was like, yeah, of course I want to bring you closer because you're going to, I know this is going to sound bizarre, okay? If you don't know about uh, abusive relationships, this might sound weird, but if you do, you'll get it. That I was like, you are going to protect me, right? Even though it's the abuser, I felt like uh, it was going to protect me from other things, from other people, from getting hurt in outside world, right? So it isolates you too, right? Susan, is this making any sense?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, okay. Because like I said, I know I'm all over the place, so I want to make sure that it's making some kind of sense. Okay. Okay. So what else? And it'll bring you, at least again in my experience, it will bring you closer to the things that are, even though I felt like it was going to protect me, it actually brought me closer to the things that were going to bring me down more, right? So it would make sure that I was self-sabotaging and making the decisions that I knew would cause me harm or of some kind. So like I said, the physical, where I was cutting and using cigarettes and stuff to burn myself, like making conscious decisions to cause myself harm. So I'd also been through sexual abuse as a young child. And so I used that as a form of self-harm, even when I was like, you know, 14, 15, whatever, like that early-ish age, where I would cause myself harm sexually, right? I would seek out another person that I was not attracted to, and I knew uh, would it would just not be enjoyable. It's not like a trigger warning R word, okay? Not like that. It was more like I know this is gonna cause me emotional distress. Like I'm gonna feel gross. I'm gonna feel gross about this, right? It's not going to feel good to me to do this, and that's why I'm gonna go do it, right? It was a form of self-harm. Okay. So I would do that. Like it would kind of guide you towards that for me, anyways. Um, so yeah, so it just that's the big thing, is for me, it was a huge mind fuck, right? It just completely twists your mind. And you almost don't know up from down, right? It just completely gaslights you and just fucks with your brain. Honestly, that's really how it's going to start until it can get that yes, because it's really looking for that permission in some way, shape, or form in order to gain possession of you. Okay. And excuse me. Okay.
Did it isolate you too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just want to be, uh, that's where it can kind of be like, is this just, part of the depression? But it's once you can completely isolate it. So especially from anyone that um, wants to come in and help you in some way, it will fuck with your mind so that you're like, I don't want that. I don't want you to help me. Why would I want you to help me? Right? It just messes with you. So you completely isolate yourself. um, and anything that, and from any situation that's going to bring you any sense of peace or joy or bliss, any of that good stuff, anything that makes you feel loved, any of that stuff, it's going to make you not want to seek that out. Okay. Because then it can't feed off of you and you're kind of breaking away from it. And it makes it harder for them to get that yes from you in order for that possession to happen. Okay. What else? Okay, so there's this one instance too where it didn't attack me directly, but it did. I don't know if I want to say it's like possession, but like more like channeling, because this was a temporary thing where it attacked someone else um, in a possession like state. We'll call it that because the person had um, no control. Again, their eyes went black, their voice dropped. It wasn't their voice. They had no physical control over their body. Like that's how I got woken up. The person had woke me up and was like said, "I don't have control of my hands," and then shit just hit the fan, right? And then this person just completely like wasn't. Again, it wasn't speaking English. Um, which is the only language this person knew. It wasn't speaking English. Uh, it again was how do I say this? It had inhuman. That was another one. That was a big one I forgot to put on here. It had inhuman strength, meaning it had like this person who is a very small, like very petite person had the strength of like 10 men. Like it was unreal. So that's another one too that I experienced myself. That again, I'm blacked out. I have no idea what's going on, but I have inhuman strength. So that was another one, inhuman strength. So like the strength that this person could not possibly have, right? Not even adrenaline speaking, right? Like beyond that, like inhuman supernatural strength. Okay. So this person had incredible strength that they should not have had, is another one. Okay. And things again are just kind of flying around, and the energy itself is just disgusting. The putrid scent, like everything just, I had fallen asleep and then just boom, I got woken up and just, it was chaos for hours though. That's the thing, is even though this typically channeling is only for a few minutes, I call this one almost like a temporary possession, if you will, because it was too long to just be like channeling, but this person wasn't fully possessed either. Like this was like a one night type of deal, right? This person had this experience and then it was just gone, it was over. um and so in that particular case though, I had thankfully what I believe, anyways, to be angelic assistance. Otherwise, I'd be dead. That person would have killed me, uh, or the thing in them would have killed me, anyways. So I had the Archangel Michael with me, and he helped me with the physical strength and getting this thing out. And I just kind of knew. Claircognizance is not my strong suit, but I think maybe this angel or something was telling me when because this was happening at night, and something just told me when the sun comes up, it'll go. I just knew that if I could just make it and survive the night, as soon as the sun started to rise, this thing was going to lift. And it did. I did everything I could, to make sure that this person did not get up and did not harm themselves or me or anyone else, because I just knew if this thing got up, game over. People were going to die. It was that serious. And so I did everything I could to, like, I got on top of them, was holding them down. The only reason I was able to keep this person down was because I had uh, archangel strength, literally. Like, I felt it in my arms. Like, as I was getting weaker, because I was exhausted after hours, right? And so at one point, I'm just like, please just help me, right? Make sure this, I was just desperate for this person not to get up because I knew what was going to happen if they did. I just knew it. And suddenly I just had this like renewed, unfounded strength just shoot through my arms. It was incredible. And like this blue ray, which is what comes with Archangel Michael, just kind of went through me, and I was able to keep that person down. But they were speaking again, just they weren't speaking English, and when they were just saying, you know, horrible things, and voice was not theirs, black eyes. Poltergeist activity was happening, so that things are flying around. There's this putrid scent, um, all of that for hours and hours. It was just so traumatic. And the reason I'm not saying who it was is to protect them. So, uh, protect their identity and all that, because this is a really horrible thing. Um, and so, sure enough, though, once the sun started to rise, the thing lifted. And this person just like, when that thing was, I don't know, it went out anyways. It lifted, it went out, it got pulled out. I don't know. It was just gone. And when it left, this person just started bawling, right? Was just weeping uncontrollably, just crying and crying and crying. Because that's the thing, is it's when you have this type of entity enter your body, even short term, for this person it was longer, it was a few hours, but even short term, it's like it feels like not a corruption, a violation. It feels like a violation, like a really deep violation. That's the only word I can really think of. And so when it lifts, if it lifts, that's what you feel. You feel like you've been violated, like violently violated. Um, with the exception of, in my experience, if it's that, you know, where I blacked out, right? There's a couple occasions where I just blacked out, and when I came to, I had no idea what had happened. I didn't feel that violation. I felt fucking scared when I came to, just being like, what, where am I? You know, just scared and confused, and that was not cool. But I didn't really feel that violation, because to me, that was more of a um, in and out kind of thing. It was just like Pied Piper almost, right? But if it lasts a little bit longer than that, so a few hours, or again, in my experience, anyways, if it lasts longer than just a few seconds or a couple minutes, you tend to have this feeling of violation. Pardon me. So I need to take a sip. Okay. So the thing too is that as it was kind of breaking me down and making me, because this is the only way I can really describe it, is again like that abusive type of situation or relationship, that I actually felt more um, protected for some reason around this thing, and I wanted, and it just, it, like I said, it twists and fucks with your mind. And so I can't even really say with like common sense or logic why I was like, I need more of this, right? It was it just, it gets into your mind. um and so I became more darker, right? So they had that change of personality. As I mentioned before, I was someone who was totally into cheerleading, right? That was my whole life, was cheerleading. I just, that was everything I wanted to be. Go team, go, rah, rah, right? This, you know, even though I had bipolar, so sometimes I would have those depressive moments or whatever. Mostly when I was just like kind of chilling somewhere in between, when I was just me, I was very much like, I was very much into creative writing, and I wanted to be a cheerleader. That was my whole life. Is that was my big dream? Is I wanted to be a professional cheerleader. right? And just being that positive, yay energy all the time. Then this thing got in me and it twisted my mind and I got darker and my personality changed. And suddenly my writing turned really, really dark, like really dark, uh, like I went from doing like, I guess you could say more like Sweet Valley High kind of wholesome fiction writing to like first person serial killer and, like again, R word type of thing, like really bad for someone who was 12. Someone who was 12 should not be writing the things that I was writing. Okay, this thing just kind of got in there and just twisted everything and just changed my personality, right? I went from cheerleader to like just dark and wanting everything. Like I wanted to paint my room black and just be alone in this black room, right? And just dark and, just being like unreasonably angry at everyone, specifically my mom, because she's the one who was trying to get rid of the thing. And so my personality just like on it, like it just night and day kind of deal. Um, and so I became more, you'll see there are some pictures of me where I was like, I went through what you might call a goth stage, pardon me. And so I went, like my clothes went from, bright colors to dark colors, right? Like just as an example of like this drastic personality change. And I went from someone who, was again a little bit who had at one point had the, the backing of Archangel Michael to having what I think it's called Simon's Necronomicon. And it's a really dark book. Okay. And it has spells for summoning demons and things like that. And that's what I was attracted to. I went from Wicca at the time, which is a religion sort of based on do what thou wilt, harm none, right? It's all peace and love and nature, being one with nature and all this like positive energy to wanting to summon more demons, right? Like it's just that drastic. And not always, and not necessarily like overnight, right? This is something that happened little by little by little. Okay, it just kind of chips away at you. For some people, it might be a little faster, it might be a little slower, depends on your situation. Um, and so, and we were also seeing these things too. So for us, it looked like for me and my mom, we would see like it looks blacker than black, like a black cloud or like a um, black shadow, but it's darker than dark. So like you could be in like a pitch dark room and you will still see this thing moving around because it's darker than dark. Um, so we would see the thing moving around too, which was scary. And it would have red eyes if it did show itself. And I don't mean that in a clairvoyance way. I mean in a like I saw it with my eyeballs, not the third eye, but like my eyeballs, right? You would see this black thing with red eyes, just like hunched over in the corner, just staring at you, right? Or in another apartment, because it was attached to me at this point, so it followed me. So there's another apartment where I was lying on my bed and it was directly over, like I was wide awake. I had not fallen asleep, so this was not sleep paralysis. I had not fallen asleep. Lying in my bed, and I see this thing in the upper corner, just again, this black thing, like smoke, just there, just staring at me. It didn't move or anything, but I was so scared that I could not move. Like it was not, like I said, not sleep paralysis. It was just paralysis of being so scared I could not move. And I have no idea how long I was there before I finally was able to like throw myself onto the floor because I wasn't that high up, kind of rolled over and like army crawled my way out of that room. But that was so scary. And it just stared at me. Oh, I just thinking about it. Ooh, I hate it. Uh, I don't even remember where I was because I'm all over the place with this one. uh, yeah, so I was at a point where I was like getting more into like the darker side I don't even want to say witchcraft because that's not what that was. That was something else. But it was like darker magic, if you will. Okay. And going that way. And I was like, my mom had found my book at one point because I don't even really remember having this book. That's how like in in it, like how oppressed I was and why I keep saying over and over I kept losing time. And things would be happening, like my dolls being hung and all that. And I'm like, I don't remember doing that. If I did that, I don't remember doing that. And I remember having this book and feeling like I wanted to, create portals and summon demons, but I didn't really. I kind of had forgotten that I'd had this book, and my mom had brought it back to my attention, and that's where I got this memory again. That she's like, I found this book, and like you had highlighted it and like dog-eared it, or like pages and stuff like that. Like you were studying this book, right? So I'd really gone to a really bad place. Um, and yeah, all of the sort of magic that I wanted to do was all kind of on that dark side, not in like the sense of like um sacrificing or any of that jazz. I wasn't doing like devil worship or any of that, even though it kind of what it sounds like, that's a different thing. This was more just like um, opening portals and summoning things. And if I was going to use any sort of sacrifice, it'd be my own, right? It'd be my own blood or whatever. It'd be my own energy, right? So yeah, it was just more on that. So everything just really went from this sort of light energy that I had, right? This like just like a wholesome child kind of energy. And just slowly it twists you and twists you and twists you. And then you just kind of become someone else, right? You're just this dark, almost like it feels like you want to hurt somebody or you want to cause more because it's in you now, right? Now it's oppressed you and might even have like possession, right? Just kind of squatting in you and causing you to want to do the things that it wants to do. It wants to cause suffering, so you feel like you want to cause suffering. Okay. So yeah. So and this goes on for years. Okay, so this is something that's kind of why I'm all over the place because this takes place over years for me. It didn't take long for it to jump on me, but this does take place over a significant amount of time. Okay, and because it was attached to me, that no matter where I went, it went, right. So it wasn't just that it was in this apartment. I think that's where a bungee cord back to after, because this thing, I do get rid of this thing. I did get rid of this thing. And like I said, when I moved back into that apartment building, it let me know it was still there. So I think that this thing got taken, when this thing was removed from me, I think it bungee cord back to that space. So I feel really bad for whoever still lives there. um, yeah, that's just my theory, though. I don't know that for sure, but that's my theory that it just kind of got flung back to the space that it came from. How it got there in the first place, I don't know. It was there when I got there, and then it just jumped on me when I was there because I was the most vulnerable. Okay, what else? So yeah, so there's just many occasions that even when I'm not in that the building or that unit, I'm living at my boyfriend's or I'm living in another apartment, and I'm still having these things happening to me. So I'm still feeling really, um, my mind's not right. Right, my mind is twisted. I feel like I need to have the protection of this demonic thing that it has power that I don't. Um, and all the stuff that I've already kind of gone through. And I tend to, and I'm still blacking out. I'm attacking people that I care about because it's a threat, right? Anyone that is trying to help me or cause me to want to lift from this energy, it's going to attack it, right? So I'm blacking out and then I'm physically trying to attack these people. And I don't remember any of these things, right? I black out and I come to and I have multiple people on top of me, trying to keep me down because I have strength that is not, supernatural strength, right? So I have multiple people on me holding me down, okay, until I come to hours later, okay? Or sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's more. I don't know. I'd have to ask them. They were the ones who were aware. I was not. Okay, and in that state, what I do remember is that I feel like I'm falling through a black pit. That's what I remember in those moments. That uh, when, again, not when I'm being pipered and I'm, at the bottom of the stairs and all of a sudden I'm on the third floor, right? That is a complete loss of time. Now, in these other occasions where I've been kind of taken over and I'm trying to attack people, when it's something that takes more than a few minutes, what I remember, and again, it's in short little bits, that I just feel like everything around me is just like I'm falling in a dark pit. Like it's just black and I'm just falling this endless pit. And all I can hear and feel is the people around me that I care about are suffering. Like I'm hearing them crying out. I'm not hearing what they're saying to me in real life. I'm hearing them like it's hell, right? That's the only way I can think to describe it. That these people that I care about are suffering and being harmed and there's nothing I can do about it, right? It's it's almost, I don't even know if it's like a threat, I don't know. But that's kind of what I remember. And then I'll come to crying like the other person I talked about, that when they were the ones possessed and I was the one holding them down, when the thing lifted, they were just bawling. And that was my experience as well. When I come to, I am just uncontrollably ugly crying. Um, and then that's when people know to let me go because it's something that became a regular, somewhat occurrence. Okay. So once they see that I'm crying, they're like, they know it enough at this point that they start to realize this is a pattern. When she starts to cry, that means whatever has happened has lifted and we can let her go and she'll be fine. Like she'll be her again. And that is what would happen. What else? Did you have any questions, Susan? Just as I'm.
I just wonder, are you still experiencing these? No, they're possessions, right?
Mhm.
You
I
still
don't
experience
now.
those? Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I don't now. So, but it does make me more, and I'll get into it, but it does make me more sensitive to them and makes me stronger against them. Because now I
Okay.
have awareness, right? When you have awareness, it makes you stronger, smarter, all that stuff, right? So, yeah, so I don't now, but it got to that point. I might have talked about this in the last one. Yeah, I did because we were talking about angels. That's right. And so this is years later, right? Years and years later. Uh and so these things are had been still happening. This is like 10 years. Like we're talking a really long span of time. And I had finally gotten to a place where I was again just gotten to the place of, again, trigger warning, suicidal, okay? And I was like, and just done. Like I wanted to just not exist. It wasn't even just a matter of I don't want to be alive. It was I don't want to exist, right? Like soul, everything, don't want to exist anymore. Um, and so that, and I, in doing that, I had kind of said to whatever. And at that point, I was so desperate. I didn't care if it was good or bad. I truly didn't. I was just like, let me know that you exist, that there's something else out there, right? That there's something, you know, good, bad. Honestly, I did not give a shit. And I even said that out loud. I was like, I don't care if you're good or bad. Just let me know there's something else besides this, right? Just Earth, right? Let me know there's something else. Kind of like, give me a reason to stay alive. And when I did that, that opened a door for what I think was an angel to come through and just kind of cleansed me of all that crap, and helped cleanse me of all that. I just cried and cried and cried. And this thing came through, cleansed me, and then pieced out. It was just like, okay, you're good. And it was gone. And that's kind of what that was for me. Anyways, for other people, it might take something else. It could be an exorcism or some kind of magic, or uh, something, I don't know, something else. I mean, I have some other things to help ward off that, but uh, in the throes of it, for me, it was a being of light, we'll just call it that, that came in and just kind of detoxed me. That's the only way I can really put it, is this thing came in because I was so full of, let's just call it this, like, darkness, right? I was so just like, there was so much yuck going on inside of me that this being of light came through and just kind of detoxed it all out of me within a matter of, I would say probably a half an hour is my best guess. That's how much time it felt like to me, anyways. Just kind of came in and detoxed me, and then pieced out. It was just like, okay, you're good, and it went, and I was good from there. Like, it was something that, like, this is why I personally work with angels. That's why I call myself the angelic witch, and why I feel so close with angels, because they've always been there when I needed them. When I needed to, hold that other person down, Michael came through. When I needed a cleansing, that being of light, I still don't know exactly who it was, but came through and cleansed me out. Maybe it was Gabriel. He does the purifying thing, so maybe it was Gabriel came through and purified me. I don't know. It came through with white light, so it makes sense that it would be Gabriel, because Gabriel comes through on the white ray of purity. But that's what happened for me. It just detoxed me. And then from there on, my energy immediately lifted and went straight back up into light and bliss and all that good stuff. And I was finally able to want to get help for my authentic mental illness, because, like I said, it can be difficult to differentiate, but I did have genuine mental illness, along with, for a while, a demonic type entity. So, and that made me not want to get help for the actual mental illness, because, like I said, this demonic type entity would kind of twist your brain and be like, getting help is bad for you, right? And you'd be like, okay, I believe that. It makes no logical sense. There's no reason there. It just completely twists the way you think. And you're like, of course, it makes sense that I wouldn't want to get help, right? Because it doesn't want you to get help. It wants to feed off your suffering. And so it just makes sense to you. So I got help, I got counseling, I got coaching, I got therapy, I got meds, and then, got into more like the self-help and wanting to be of service was a big one. It was a really big one, wanting to be of service, right? So as soon as this thing was like detoxed from my system, everything, it just, again, it was like on a dime, right? So I just went boom, and my energy just immediately went back to love and light, if you will. It's not to say I don't have bad days or depression or whatever, but there's a big difference. Big difference. um and what was it I was going to say? Maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah, it's gone. I was going to say something and it's gone. So I've chatted way longer than I thought I was going to. So we'll go into some ways to kind of protect yourself. Okay, some ways to kind of fight back and protect yourself. Just before I do, Susan, do you have anything? Comments, questions, stories?
No, not really. I mean, not things that I would want to put on a public chat at any rate.
Okay.
Because I think some of this stuff is harder to talk about, and I never know where the boundaries are. So maybe I'll shoot you a PM when I process it a little bit, but nothing really
Okay.
bad.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and again, just before I go off on ways to kind of fight back or protect yourself, my whole thing about going all over the place and not being able to stay focused or stay on like a straight path is why I wrote a book and why I write blogs and why I write scripted video content, because it makes it so much easier for me to just like stay in one place and make sense. So I do worry when I do these like sort of live chats like this that I just don't make sense. It helps me to get focused when I'm actually writing things down. So okay. So like I said before, I do have a book. If you want something that makes a little more sense, Paranormal 101. I think there's a tagline. It's been a few years since I wrote it. So Paranormal 101, or I do have some blog posts on my blog if you want to check those out about paranormal stuff. That's where a lot of these notes come from too. So some ways to fight back. First one, prayer. Okay, and this doesn't necessarily have to be like Christian style prayer. It can be if it brings you strength, uh, but not necessarily. I've always been a witch. Okay, there's been times where I kind of dabbled in Christianity, didn't work out for me, wasn't my thing. But uh, the kind of prayer I'm talking about is like when when I've reached out, anytime I've reached out and was like, I need help, right? Uh, I need help holding this person down. I need help with physical strength holding this person down, right? Archangel Michael came. Or when I said, I need help knowing if, give me a reason to live, right? What I think might be Archangel Gabriel, maybe a different being of light came through. Okay. So it could be anything like that. So a prayer to light beings, okay, to come and help you out. Specifically, I would recommend if you're looking for prayer or for protection, Archangel Michael is your guy, but go with what works for you. Some of these are going to be repetitive because we mentioned these before. So Palo Santo and or lavender and cedar sage, you can burn that. So one way to do that, some people will burn it, like we'll open up the windows and then burn sage or Palo Santo so that the thing has somewhere to go. I personally wait to do that. So I will fill the space up with this Palo Santo or lavender and cedar sage. I will fill it up first so it has nowhere to go at first, right? You want to weaken this some bitch. Okay. And then I will open up a window so that it can escape. It can go out. You don't, and I say escape because you don't want it in your space, right? You're doing this to get it out. Okay. I like to make sure that it stays out. So that's why I do the smoke first and then I open the windows. But if you want to open the windows first and that makes sense to you, do that. Black tourmaline is an incredibly protective stone, specifically against harmful energies. So you can keep that on you. Salt and non-chemically treated tobacco have also been used. So you can pour that in your windowsills and across doorways to try and keep, these are some things to keep out, right? It's not to necessarily banish per se, it's to keep it out, keep it from getting in the first place, okay? Turn your anger into strength. Okay, so another way, and some people kind of when they get scared, but then they want to take their power back, they'll get angry, and this can be good unless you use it to tell the thing to to what is that? What is Zach Bagans always doing? What is that word I'm looking for? Provoke. Oftentimes when people get this anger and they feel that rush of taking their power back and strength, they will use it to provoke. Do not do that. That's not what I'm talking about. This is about turning it into strength, as in strength of will. Get out. You are not welcome here. Get out of my space, right? This is not bring it on or any of that jazz. Okay, we're not provoking. We are not Zach Bagans. We're not doing that. Okay, we're turning this anger into strength of will to push this thing out of your space. You're taking back your power in your space. Get out. Okay, not bring it on or any of that. Okay, I've mentioned this one before too. Making positive changes or habits, as in make the thing not want to be there, right? So if everything else has failed, you've done blessings, exorcisms, you're doing prayer, Palo Santo, black tourmaline, salt and tobacco, all that jazz, everything you've done and it's not working, make the thing not want to be there. And you do that, and it's hard, I know, but you do that by naturally raising that vibration, right? You fight back through raising that vibration. So having love for yourself, having love for your space, having love for your pets, anyone else that's, in the space, your children, your family, right? You kind of flip that script on them and you raise the vibration with that heart chakra. And I've mentioned it before. So we're looking at unconditional love and being in that, trying to do whatever you can to lift your vibration to joy and even bliss, like trying to lift that up into that loving energy. So playing music that naturally lifts your energy, scents, like what I want to say, incense or essential oils, right? Anything that's going to make you feel good. Okay, do anything and everything you can that's going to lift your vibration and make you feel good, and tap into love, like unconditional love, compassion, kindness, patience, compassion, all that stuff, that all the things that feel good, you want to do that. So it could even be healthy habits like changing up your diet to something that's going to make you feel good. Maybe working out if it makes you feel good. Maybe dropping certain habits that aren't going to serve you. So, you know, maybe alcohol or cigarettes or, anything that makes you feel kind of blech, but you do it anyways. Let that go. Shift up those habits so that you're feeling good. You want to make this thing uncomfortable and not want to be there. Okay. And I think last on my list, unless I think of something else, placing iron over doorways and or the four corners of your property and this is more of again, to keep it out. Not so much like a banishing thing, it's more just to keep it out, keep it from getting in the first place. Okay, so then other things that no playing with Ouija boards. Okay, and I mean that in the sense of like, as an amateur, don't play with a Ouija board unless you know what you're doing. No seances unless you know what you're doing, because again, these are just portals. So no scrying unless you know what you're doing, right? Anything that's going to open up a portal that isn't explicitly of light beings, those lower entities are just going to take advantage and come right through, and then you're screwed. Okay, so watch out for that stuff too. Is there anything else that I'm not thinking of or that I've forgotten? I can't think of anything right now. If it comes to me, maybe I'll put it in the group. But wow, I did not think this was going to go that long. I really did not. Okay, so yeah, maybe I'll write some more blog posts or videos, scripted videos, so they make sense or something. So Susan, if you have any questions or anything that you even want to ask, what is the word I'm looking for? Without your name being out there, the word doesn't want to come to me, but or anything like that, let me know. Yeah, you can DM me, put it in the group, what have you, and maybe I can do anonymous was the word I was looking for. If you wanted to be anonymous, right? And I can still sort of answer any questions or what have you through blog or scripted content by indirect means to answer your question.
No, I guess the only thing that, am I on? I'm on. The only thing that came to me, the way you were talking about different things you could do to protect yourself,
Mhm.
It's okay to combine different traditions. It sounds like different
Mm.
traditions and practices during the same time period, that you don't have to, if you're going to do Reiki, you don't have to just stick to Reiki, but you could bring in your shamanism, and you do what's feeling good for you, what's natural for you, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, there was something there. Oh, I had like a blip, and then I don't know if I caught it fast enough. Damn, there was something though. But yes, to answer the question, yes. So yeah, so you don't have to rely on like, because if you're looking at like TV and movies and all that, they make you kind of believe that it's an exorcism, it's a Catholic exorcism or nothing, right? And that is not the case. Okay, there are different religions and modalities that work just as good or better than others. Um, oh darn, there was something there. I can feel it, and now I don't know if it's going to come through. But yeah, gosh, it was there. But yeah, it doesn't. You could be, yeah, again, like you were saying, Susan. It could be Reiki, shamanism, uh, Wicca, right? Like it could be anything like that, anything. So, or just burning Palo Santo, right? Anything like that. Yeah. Oh, gosh, there was something there, and I know it'll come to me, hopefully, and I'll just put it in the group. But okay, I think I have prattled on far longer than I expected to. I hope this was helpful, even though I'm not sure how much sense, like linear sense, it made, but hopefully it was helpful. Uh, I have a lot of this stuff on my blogs, but I can also put out like for the group. I can maybe put out a list or something like a PDF or something for so that you can just look at it really and just have it. You can download it or whatever, so you have it on hand should you need it. But I think we will wrap it up there for now. Again, whether you, Susan, or someone else watching the replay has any further questions or comments or stories or anything that they might want some help with, let me know in the group or DM me or email me, whatever, and I'll do what I can. Okay. Yeah. Did you have something, Susan?
No, thank you.
Okay.
This is really informative for me, and this was out of my realm of real, serious experiences, but I'm gonna pay more attention. It's like I said, we occasionally hear growls and stuff, but
Mm,
I think that our interactions still probably are pretty minimal, and then that might just be because of the levels of sensitivity that we have.
mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and it may also, it just came into my mind too. I want to mention too, that there's, I mean, I don't know, Susan, do you in your group or you just yourself, do you do any form of like affirmations or protection before you go into a space? I'm just
oh
curious.
yes,
See, that might
absolutely.
also, yeah, so that might also be another reason why your group or even just you yourself don't experience a whole lot of demonic infestation or interaction, is because you are so well protected. That's also another thing too that just occurred to me for you, because I was always like, why is it that when Susan goes into these places that should have a demonic infestation, everything tells me it should. Why is she not having these experiences, or their group having that experience? It just occurred to me that it could be because you're protected, that you're doing
Yeah,
these protection things, or you might naturally have your guardian angels around you or spirit guides that are protecting you. So that's another thing, just as we're rolling closing things down here, to mention too. That's uh, you may be naturally protected as well.
yeah, because we all put bubbles around ourselves, the white light
Mm-hmm.
bubbles, and also, we do not give them permission.
Yeah,
Just specifically say you do not have permission if you're negative
yeah,
or dark to touch me, bother me, or anything like that, and then with the bubbles, and I always have my little stones, and
yeah, Yeah, so that's a big one too. So if you know, so like Susan, when you know you're going into these places that may possibly either have, you know, earthbound spirits that are malevolent, or possibly there could be a possible demonic infestation, to make sure that you go in with protection. Make sure that you have your white bubble of protection. Make sure you have those boundaries set. Um, you know, have that black tourmaline with you or what have you. Make sure you have all of those protections with you before you enter the space. Of course, that's not always going to be, you know, you won't always know you're walking into a space like that. But if you know, you know, you're going there knowing, you know, like for me as a medium, if I'm getting called in as a medium to go to these places, I'm making sure I am protected out the wazoo, right? And so I found too, I know I've gone on too long, but um, going into a place as a medium and knowing that there is demonic influences happening, I make sure that not only am I hella protected, but I found, anyways, that when I've gone in as a medium and had this protection with me, that the demonic entities are actually, they will run away from me. And not because I feel like I'm that powerful, it's because of the protection around me, the angels and the guides and all of that. I have all of this, and of course I have my black tourmaline and I have my Palo Santo with me, and I have like my salt and my holy water and all that jazz. I make sure like I have a little kit that I bring with me to make sure that um, I'm protected and the people around me that are in that space are protected. And I found that when I've gone in as a medium, and I have all this protection and all these tools with me, that anytime I've had to go face to face with a demonic entity since being detoxed, as I put it, that these demonic entities want nothing to do with me. They will run away. So there's that too. So I'll put that out there too. Um, that that may also be your case as well, Susan, that you guys are so well protected that these demonic entities want nothing to do with you, because you might have some powerful spiritual protection around you that makes the demonic just be like, I'm not messing with that. Right? Like a demon coming up against, you know, say Archangel Michael, the demon's going to run. It knows it's going to get its ass kicked, right? It's not going to win that battle. It's going to run. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So there's that too. So that's an awesome way to kind of wrap this up sort of on a positive note, if you will, and just to kind of add some more stuff to be like, you know, make sure you're protected. And like I said, I can promote my book. I might even do a second edition because it has been years since I wrote that book and I've had other things happen since then. So, but there's some great information in that book. I can share stuff from my blog. Maybe I'll write some more stuff. Maybe I'll make um, a PDF or something of the list I have here, just so it's downloadable. Because I really feel like, and it's the reason I wrote my book in the first place, was that I wanted people to feel empowered, right? To know that not only do these things happen, right? I don't want people to feel like they're crazy or they're alone. These things don't happen to anyone else. They do. And there are things you can do about it. And there are things that you can do to protect yourself to keep them from ever happening. So I wanted to make sure that this information kind of goes far and wide, right? To make sure that people know they're not alone and that they have power. I want them to feel empowered.
And,
Okay, so
and you also said something, and I don't think that you have emphasized it high enough
okay,
or emphasized it enough. Don't go beyond what your training is
yeah,
without someone there who can negotiate anything bad that you get into. I mean, never, you know, as a paranormal investigator, we're taught never to investigate alone. I know there are people that do it,
mm-hmm.
but, you know, don't do what you're not qualified to do.
Yes, yes. I think, did I even? I did too. There was a point that I missed. It was like lower down. The last point I had on here, thank you for reminding me, was if all else sort of fails, or even to start with, seek professional help. That
Uh-huh.
was the last bullet point that I almost missed.
Yeah.
So yeah, seek professional help. So if you do find that you're either up against a malevolent human spirit, or maybe possibly have a demonic infestation, and you're a novice, right? You're an amateur. Seek professional help. Do not try to do this on your own. Do not, because
Correct.
it can actually make things worse if you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, definitely seek professional help. So thank you for that reminder. Okay.
Well,
Okay, so I can't believe we went 2 hours. I really did not think it was going to go that long. Okay.
I
So thank
know.
you so much, Susan, for being here.
Well, thank
And
you.
and I will put some more of this information out, share some more of this information. Again, anybody watching the replay, if you have any questions or comments or stories or anything that you want to share or you want to tell me about, let me know. I'll do what I can. Okay.
Okay.
Have a great rest of your evening, Susan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again for being here, and I will see you in the group.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.